Electric mobility in the Philippines has become more and more popular each and every year, thanks to the emergence of things like this, an electric scooter or e-bikes. They're great for short distances, but when you start talking about much larger distances, obviously outside of the city, people in the Philippines tend to kind of put off EVs, and I totally understand why. There's the cost of getting into EV. Then there's the fact that there is still range anxiety. And then, as we've shown on our previous video of the Leaf, the infrastructure just isn't 100% just yet. Totally get that. But you want to be able to reap all the benefits, like the smooth and quiet ride, the efficiency, and then the power delivery that's just like that. Have a look at this. This is the Nissan Kicks e-Power. This comes in at 1,309,000 Philippine pesos for this variant, the VE, the mid-tier variant, which is 200,000 Philippine pesos more affordable than the top tier. If you are interested in looking at the top tier, however, well, the video links are somewhere down below because we have actually covered it extensively. Now, we do realize that these two automobiles are of two different price points, yes, but what we're trying to show here to you today is what it is that you can get for X amount of money that you can either go with e-Power or go with the traditional hybrid system. Now, what we're going to talk about is the differences between the VE and the VL, and also pair it up against what you would normally get in a traditional hybrid vehicle, such as the Toyota Corolla Cross. We're going to talk about its driving dynamics, acceleration, and of course, very importantly, fuel efficiency. Wait, why isn't it? Did we leave the charger at home? Hassle. Are you looking to compare prices for your brand new car? Well then, visit AutoDeal.com.ph, select the car that you want, and choose to request for a quote from our network of over 500 official dealer partners nationwide. Within minutes, you'll start receiving offers from the dealers you've selected. All that's left is for you to select the deal that's best for you. Get the best deal on AutoDeal. Let's start with the exterior of the Kicks VE. The V-Motion grille is very much on display with chrome and glossy black plastic flanking the grille. You also get these big LED headlamps. Now, as for the differences, it's almost identical, but here in the VE, you only get black plastic trims down below, no fog lamps. Now, over on the side, you find a set of 17-inch wheels and disc brakes, front and rear, obviously for the regeneration. The Kicks sits on 180 millimeters of ground clearance. On top, you have silver roof rails, and below that are power folding mirrors with repeaters. Gone is the two-tone paint job and silver accent on the side from the VL, but overall, the differences really aren't huge. Over at the rear, what you will find is very large and very unique tail lamps for such a small automobile. And then you've got this accent piece that stretches the entire width of the automobile. Unfortunately, that's exactly just what it is, an accent piece. It does not light up like most European automobiles. I wish it kind of did. Also, what I wish the VE had that is only available on the VL is that it doesn't have a reverse camera. Now, in today's society, no, that would be the wrong term. In today's world of cars and whatnot and the conveniences that you get, you kind of wish it had one. But, well, there you go. On the Cross, we've actually covered this automobile quite extensively on Behind the Wheel before. In fact, we even did a walk around of the GRS. And then we took this hybrid V variant up against the non-hybrid and even drove it up to Baguio, which Jack refuses to let me forget. Let it go, Jack. It's done and dusted. So, What we'll do is quickly go around what you get on the outside of the vehicle, which is large LED headlamps with fog lamps found down below, and then this Aston Martin-esque grille surrounds the blue-tinged Toyota badge, signifying that, of course, it is a hybrid. On the side, you have 18-inch alloy wheels with disc brakes all around, again, because of the regeneration, sitting on 180 millimeters of ground clearance, similar to the Kicks, really. And then at the back, you have LED taillights, a rear fog lamp, plastic down below, and an oddly positioned Corolla badge. Now let's get on to the space. Now, the Corolla Cross has been around for quite some time, but it still gets me how weird it is to say the name Corolla and not think of a big body or Love Life or Tom's, which just goes to show I'm seasoned, which is a nice way of just saying I'm old. When you open her up, you are looking at 440 liters of space, good enough to fit a balikbayan box with the second row in play. Obviously, when you fold that, you can fit in at least another pair of balikbayan boxes in there. Over on the Kicks, you're looking at 470 liters of space, which you can put a balikbayan box even with the tonneau there. And then again, more space if you fold the second row. In the rear of the Kicks, space is, well, it's decent. It's not stupendous, but it's okay. That would be just about an average of my driving position, really. So legroom is actually okay. Headroom, pretty good too. Space for up to 2 passengers, definitely. A third might be an issue because there is a bit of a tunnel. So yeah, maybe better for 2 average size adults. The difference between this VE to the VL is that this has cloth seats where the VL has leather seats. Now, they both have their advantages. With leather seats, it's easier to clean, easier to slide in and out. However, in weather such as this, we do live in the Philippines, even if it's December, it's still warm. Cloth at least doesn't pool your sweat, you know what I mean? However, there are no toys back here, such as you don't have a center armrest, which means no cup holders, just bottle holders on either door. But they're pretty big though, because they can hold even large bottles. Soft bottles like this are not an issue. I don't know, however, if it will fit the more solid bottles that you can get at the malls and the groceries and whatnot. No air vents in the center too. That's 0. You only have 2 USB charging points, which is obviously a great thing. But the air vents kind of sucks for a lot of people. But I will tell you that this is a Nissan. So thankfully, the air that comes from up front is actually pretty darn good. In the Cross, well, it's a bit more posh, however it is that you want to say it, in the manner that you've got leather seats. So sliding in and out, not a problem. It's just that when it gets warm, again, it will start to pool. But you've got a lot more toys back here. Let's start with the bottle holders on the door. They're actually up on top instead of being down below. Now, these guys, I don't know if you can fit much larger bottles than this, especially if they're solid bottles. But the smaller canteen bottles, I think that would fit. That kind of a snug fit. Legroom, you feel lower to the ground in the Cross. Legroom is just about the same as the Kicks, maybe a little bit more in the Kicks. Headroom, there's a little bit more here inside the Cross. This is, again, my normal driving position. But like I mentioned earlier, there are more toys back here in the sense that there is a center armrest with 2 bottle holders that you can find right there. There are air vents that you can find here in the center, along with 2 charging points found here, down below. So there is much more, say, to play with. I don't know if you're never going to play with these things, but there are more things for your passengers in the back, as well as a bit more space in the sense of a third passenger. Now, it's still tight, much like the Kicks, but I feel as if that if need be, a third passenger would be slightly more comfortable in the Cross, than they would be in the Kicks. The business end of the Kicks, and well, first and foremost, Jack and I did spend a lot of time inside the Kicks, going to Misibis Bay and back. So I can tell you, number one, is that the seats are actually pretty darn comfortable. There was never a time where Jack and I felt overly fatigued after a 500-kilometer drive. Either of us was actually doing fine. You've got your flat bottom steering wheel with buttons on them. Your instrument cluster has a 7-inch digital display that is right beside an analog speedometer. And then your infotainment is actually an 8-inch touchscreen infotainment system. Unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, there is no reverse camera inside this automobile, as well as Nissan's intelligent mobility. It's lacking from this automobile, which is hence the price difference. And then down below, you've got your electronic parking brake, a really funky gear selector, and then the two important buttons that you have here, which is full EV, and of course your drive modes, which we'll get to a little bit later. Now, in the Cross, it's much like the same story actually as the Kicks, in the sense that, well, number one, Jack and I also spent a lot of time inside this automobile by driving to Baguio up and then just turning around and coming back down. So we know for a fact that it is actually quite comfortable in here. And then the materials are pretty much the same. Harder plastics up on top and then softer touch materials in the center, same as the Kicks. But we are also talking about an automobile that is significantly more than the Kicks in terms of price. So what do you get? Well, you do have more toys in here, in the sense that you have an automatic dimming mirror. That's one. You have power seats. That's a second. And the third is that you've got Toyota Safety Sense in here, which includes stuff like radar cruise control, which means it can follow and change speeds by itself. And then, of course, it's got a reverse camera, wherein inside the Kicks, it does have cruise control, but it's not radar. And again, it doesn't have a reverse camera. But to finish up in here, you also have a 7-inch instrument cluster that is all digital. The only analog gauges here are just your temperature and your fuel gauge. You also have, like the Kicks, an 8-inch touchscreen infotainment system. But I do believe that the integration of it in the dashboard looks better in the Kicks than it does out here, because this one, it kind of does stick out. So those are the minor differences inside and outside the automobile. The major differences are what's at the heart of the automobile. Now, I do understand that we have a lot of viewers that know the difference between a hybrid system and the e-Power. But for those that don't, allow me to explain. In the Corolla Cross, which is a hybrid system, you do have an internal combustion engine that still needs fuel from your average gasoline station to run. That internal combustion engine, yes, powers the wheels and pushes the car along, or rather pulls the car along. But it also charges the batteries that are supplied inside the automobile. Now, when it's possible at slower speeds inside the city, what it does is that it uses the juice inside the battery to push the car along. And then when you need more power, when you start getting out on the highway, it uses the batteries and the internal combustion engine to pull the car along, so to speak. That is a hybrid engine. And oh, by the way, it's also mated to a CVT. Inside the Kicks e-Power, this is an internal combustion engine much like this, and it also does need fuel. But this internal combustion engine only acts as a generator. So it produces electricity that the batteries then store. That juice is used by the electric motor inside the automobile, and that is basically what pulls the car along. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the difference between hybrid and e-Power. Now, I could talk about it till the cows come home, but really, that's about the nitty-gritty of it. The difference is how they react on the road. First up, we're in the Cross. We've got a incline that will mimic most parking garages in the country. It's just that we're gonna floor it. That's the difference. As if you've been stuck in that parking garage for 5 hours because Christmas. Okay, so we're at an incline, completely stopped, and we floor it. So you hear the engine spooling up. So you've got the battery and the engine pushing the car as best as possible and as quickly as possible. The power is not throwing you back into the headrest at all. And you can still feel the CVT, much like a conventional CVT, really. There's a little bit of a rubber band to it, but the power delivery is actually quite smooth. It's not jarring by any means necessary. It gets you going. And mind you, I actually did that on Eco. We try it again by shifting the drive mode to power. Okay, let's try it again. Full stop, same gradient of the incline, floor it. Same, it's actually pretty much the same. The steering wheel may have tightened up just a little bit, but really it's the same whether you're on eco or on your power, because when you do floor it and you're asking everything from the engine, I think it sort of like switches over and says to itself, or says to you that, yeah, I know what it is that exactly that you're trying to do. Now that we're inside the Kicks, we're going to go through the same test that we did with the Corolla Cross. We're going to find that incline, same gradient. We're going to take a full stop and see just exactly how it feels like to power on through with the e-Power. So we've got the same incline now. Full stop, same eco. Here we go. It's a lot more immediate. Yes, there's a lot more power. There's obviously a lot more torque, and it's also much smoother. In the Corolla Cross, you have to contend with the CVT, the transmission. In here, essentially, there is no transmission because, well, it's just one gear. So you're on all the time. And since also it's an electric motor that powers the wheels all the time, then the power delivery is quite instantaneous. Again, it's not going to throw you back in your seat, but you will feel it as if there's G-forces pulling in you. And that was just on eco. Let's try it again. Same incline again, or same incline with the Corolla Cross. This time on sport. Full stop, and 3, 2, 1. Yep. Again, same with the Corolla Cross. I think the system does recognize that you're flooring it. So whether you're on eco or on sport, it actually feels the same way when you're trying to get away on an incline. I guess the difference would be on a flat surface. Now, the difference between the two engines, or rather the two systems, is that in the hybrid, the engine was spooling and it was powering the wheels at the same time. Here, yes, you will hear the engine spool as well, but it's only doing so because it has to compensate for the amount of power that you're forcing out of the batteries to push the engine. So that is actually just spooling faster so that it can power the batteries some more. But the cool thing about it is that unlike an EV, if you're not used to something that's just so absolutely quiet, because it can catch you off guard. It catches my wife off guard, actually. If you're used to something that has a little bit of a noise, then both the Kicks and the Corolla Cross has that for you, because in essence, it still does have an internal combustion engine. Now that I'm traveling at 40 kilometers per hour, what I want to try and do now is to simulate overtaking while on an incline and see what that feels like. Okay, this is a bit much of an incline, so let's pass on that. Okay, here we go, a little better of an incline. 30 kilometers per hour, floor it. As the car is moving now at 30 kilometers per hour, when you do floor it, it feels a lot more powerful. Like it's more dialed in, more in tune with you, saying, yes, now that we're speeding up, I think that the car's probably trying to figure out that, yes, you need more power to be able to overtake. And it's not sluggish at all. It's not sitting down or anything like that. It is still quite powerful. Quite powerful indeed, yes. But again, nothing explosive, not like an electric motor as what we've experienced in other electric motors, like when we drove the Leaf, or dare I say, even the BMW iX. Okay, maybe just the iX, because I don't believe that the Leaf was anywhere close to being as quick as the iX. The next test we're going to do is the overtaking test that we did also with the Corolla Cross, which is I'm going to bring it back down to 30 kilometers per hour, and then I'm going to floor it and see what it feels like if you're trying to overtake at an incline. I'm at 30 now. Much more immediate inside this automobile. No lag whatsoever, no trying to figure out which gear or simulated gear it's trying to get into to be able to overtake. So I would say that it's quicker in a sense by about at least a second, maybe at least a second and a half, so to speak. When you floor it, when you floor the accelerator, it's difficult to impart exactly what an electric motor can do if you've never actually driven one, and it's just instantaneous. Really, that's the truth. There really is no other way to explain it other than it just, you step on it and it just goes. One of the last things that we need to tackle is fuel efficiency. Now, we drove both automobiles in different situations, but I can tell you that both automobiles sat in a lot of traffic, and I do mean a lot. It is December after all. The Cross has done about 250 kilometers already, and with an average speed of about 21 kilometers per hour, hence what I mean by traffic. And in all of that combined, it's been able to produce, if I'm just going to check this correctly, yep, as of the moment, we are at 17.3 kilometers per liter. That's actually very good. If I could only show you just exactly how heavy the traffic is sitting inside this automobile, my goodness. Christmas is in full swing. Now again, to talk about fuel efficiency, I did mention that it was similar conditions, meaning heavy traffic. The Kicks has been driven for about 430 kilometers since we got it, at an average speed lower at 16 kilometers per hour, and the consumption, the average consumption is 15.3 kilometers per liter. So a little better on the Corolla Cross, but the average speed of the Corolla Cross was also at least 5 kilometers faster. I've noticed also they both have recovery systems in the form of brakes, right? But here in the Kicks, and this is just on D, not even B, which is the harder braking, it is much tighter. You feel as if that it's really trying to recover as much energy as possible. And you understand why, because, well, it's essentially an electric driven car, right? It's an EV. So that, I feel like if you were driving the Cross, and it feels great because you don't feel as if that you're wasting any energy while you're going downhill. In the Kicks, even more so. And I'm just on D. If I switch it over to B, I can recover even more, and that's like going downhill. I actually need to step on the accelerator to move because it's just holding the car back by a lot. So, just a quick wrap up. The Corolla Cross feels like, drives like more of a conventional automobile because it does primarily have an internal combustion engine. There's nothing wrong with that, but it actually is more fuel efficient in that sense because of its hybrid system. Here in the Kicks, well, it's electric motors that are driving the car. So the power delivery is just that much faster, and it's got more torque. And plus, it's so much more fuel efficient in the sense that you're getting 15 kilometers per liter inside the city. Inside the city. During December traffic. Hey man, that's wow. That's really pretty darn good. As I've mentioned earlier, we've covered these two vehicles quite extensively, and you'll find the links somewhere down below. If you want to learn more information about them, do visit our website, AutoDeal.com.ph. But as of this Kicks VE, which comes in at just a hair over 1.3 million Philippine pesos, I really do believe that it's quite great value for the package that you get. And I'm saying that despite the fact of it lacking certain things like a reverse camera, an around view monitor, and even radar cruise control at this price point, which you would find in other vehicles like the Territory or the HR-V. What it is though, however, is that, well, it's got most of the characteristics of an EV without the worrisome shortcomings that we face here in the Philippines. Look, I'm not trying to ram this thing down your throat. No one is. But think of it this way. They are by no means the Millennium Falcon and the Starship Enterprise. No, not at all. Not by a mile. But they are very much so a glimpse into the future that is available here today. And at these price points, well, it's the same amount of money that you were going to spend to purchase an internal combustion engine anyway. And at the beginning of this video, we were talking about those that wanted to go EV but just weren't ready for it, or EV wasn't ready for them. This gives you that option itself. And there is one thing that may not mean a lot to a lot of people out there, but a lot to a lot of people in Metro Manila. I know that makes sense to some people, not all the time, but sometimes. Anyway, what I'm trying to get at is these automobiles have zero coding in Metro Manila. Zero.